Well, guys, 5 minutes each for fighting!
All right. Welcome in episode number 5 of the 3Hell podcast. Great day to be here today. I am Nolan Rasmussen, along with my co-host Caleb Crouch. Crouchy, how are we feeling today?
Just fantastic, dude. We got a great guest. Our guest is Jeff Pyle, head coach of the Atlanta Capitals, coached in the East Coast for a while. He's a guy that put up 100 points multiple years in a row in the Pro League and is a Northern Michigan legend. So great to have him on. And he's a great guy. So just a little bit about Jeff. I mean, how did you get into obviously coaching where you're at right now? Just to knock stuff off real quick.
Um, I actually didn't want to coach. That's probably the best part of this story. I was over in Europe, and in the end, uh,
Yep.
I was getting ready to come home, and they said, "Well, we'd like you to stay and coach. If you stay, we'll fire the coach." And I'm like, "No, that's not how this is going to work. Like if you want to fire him, and then we'll talk." But I didn't want it to be like, "Okay, to fire him," and then. So I sat there and waited, and they decided it was because the next day we had tickets to go home. And so in the end, I stayed and started coaching over in Europe and finished that season. And then came back the next year and did it again. And then eventually I went home after a couple of years. I had you know, uh, my wife was pregnant and we were going to have a baby. So I wanted to, have the baby over at home. And so in the end, the bottom line, we ended up coming home and I had a buddy and I just said, I talked to him and said, "Hey, congratulations, they just won the Stanley Cup." And I just said, "Hey, congratulations, you won Stanley Cup at home." And I said, like what do you got going on? He goes, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know yet. I'm, sending my resume out to Coca-Cola. I'm sending it out to UPS, and I had interviews with them, and I could have taken those jobs." And he goes, "Well, give me a couple days." So 4 days later, he calls me back, and next thing you know, I'm an assistant coach in the IHL. And so I did that for a year, and then I put my resume into Mobile, Alabama, in the ECHL, and I got that job, and that's kind of how it all started. And it was kind of a perfect scenario. It was a team that I got into late. I always seem to get into teams late,
Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
got to chase it for a while, which has always
Yep.
been my thing. So that's what I ended up doing. I had to rebuild in Mobile in the first half of the season, kind of like what we did last year. We weren't very good, and I had to get rid of some riffraff, and I did that and got some young kids in, and we started working really hard. We made the playoffs on the very last day in a shootout.
Nice.
So that was kind of exciting. Then the next year, I took one day off, just one day, and then I started recruiting. And the next year, we started out 9-0, and um, I got confident in what I was doing, and I was there for 4 years. And then all of a sudden, we moved the team to Atlanta, and we went from the worst building in the league to the best building in the league. So it was a lot of luck, and
Yeah.
obviously people helping me out. But so went to Atlanta in our first year. I had gotten to be known in Mobile about moving guys up. So agents would reach out to me and say, "Hey, I just told them, I said, if you guys have a guy falling through the cracks, I'll take him. I'll help
Yeah.
him move up. I'll do whatever I can to make it better." So all of a sudden they were calling me, and I was getting a lot of good young kids. And my first year in Atlanta, we had 14 rookies, and we went to the conference finals, which was,
Jesus.
it was just, it was a blast. Like all
Yeah.
these young kids were just, flying around, and we had a good affiliation um, in Atlanta with the Thrashers, which was right down the street, here at the ice forum.
Yeah.
So they said, "Yeah, it makes sense to be your affiliate," and they would always give us good guys and took care of us. And then we worked with the Chicago Wolves too in the American League, so they were sending us guys too. So I was like, we had the best of both worlds, and I was treated so well when I'd go to their camps. I'd be able to help in the camp and stuff like that. So from my experience, I would learn a lot more about coaching and different drills and things like that. And then with the NHL team right there, and Donnie being, a guy that I had gone to school with, he snuck me into the camps there. So I was learning from a lot of good NHL coaches too. So I was just a lot of it was right place, right time, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I know I see you played 3 years in Northern Michigan. You were captain the third year. Just give us like a couple, couple stories throughout those years, and I guess one of the better ones that you have, if you have any. I'm sure you have a couple.
Yeah, Northern Michigan was different because like when I was young, I wasn't that good. I really wasn't.
Right.
You know, like I was just an average player, and then it went on to you know, I was playing in a midget league at one point after I got cut from my high school team the first year.
Yeah.
And so then the next year I get brought back. I'm on the JV. I move up to the varsity at the end of the year. Then they go to the state tournament. I get cut. You know, feel like they said, well, we have a senior and we want to give him the experience. And he didn't play at all, so I probably wouldn't have played, but it would have been nice to play
Right.
in front of it, you know, in front of that many fans and stuff. So in my senior year, I go back and I was just average. Sometimes I play on the second line, and then sometimes I play on the third line, and so that ended up going to where I was just average. And then at the end of the year, I went to the USHL. And my first year in the USHL, I never played. Like
Yeah.
literally, we would practice, and he would push us down all the mutts down to one end, and then
Yep.
they would practice at the other end and do stuff, and we would just scrimmage and stuff on our end. Like we weren't even
Yeah.
part of it. Seriously, it was one of the worst things I've ever been through. So I quit and I went to junior B because I'm like, I'm not playing. This is a waste of my time. So I went to junior B and we had a bad team, but the crazy thing was the state tournament was in our building. So we
No
got a
shit.
bye and we got to play in the state tournament because we were hosting it, which is the dumbest rule I've ever heard.
Yeah. No shit.
Seriously. Yeah. So we're playing in the state tournament and we end up winning it. And everybody was
No way.
pissed. Yeah, they were
That's
pissed
fucking
because they're like,
crazy.
they shouldn't even be in this tournament. And I
Yeah.
agreed with them.
Right.
I'm like, we shouldn't have been in here. So we win that tournament, and then the next year I go back to the USHL and I lit it up. And I can't tell you I did anything different or I was, like I started, juicing or anything like that. It was just flat out, I
Yeah.
just was working hard and I was getting lucky and playing well. And then I got a chance to go to Northern Michigan. They gave me a scholarship, and I was fairly poor, so if it wasn't covered, I wasn't going to be able to go. And that's why I told the coach. He goes, we'll give you a half scholarship, and then you'll get some a basic grant. So I said,
Right.
well, he goes, you'll make the team. It's just a matter of how hard you work is how much you play. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So I committed right away. I had four choices: Ohio State, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Northern Michigan. And being from Minnesota, I did not want to stay there. I just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to spread my wings a little bit. So
Absolutely.
then I go to, I go to Northern. In my first game, I scored 3 goals. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
all
Yeah.
right, this is I like
Sweet.
this.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
I like.
Yuck.
So I go there, and then my first year I did pretty well. I think I had 42 points, and the first year I was there, we only had juniors. We didn't have any seniors. It was only the third year of the team. So and I had a buddy there, so that's why I went there. And so then the second
Right.
year I come back and we go to the Final Four and we lose to North Dakota in the finals. And then my third year we went back to like a bunch of guys graduated and left that were really good guys. So everybody thought we'd be good, but not great. The next year we go back to the Final Four again. And so then I end up signing an NHL deal and I'm like, how did I get here? Like I was like, this is crazy. So I signed an NHL deal with Hartford. And yeah, the Northern Mission thing was just a blast though. Like we go into the Final Four and we go walking around in Providence, Rhode Island, and we all buy cowboy hats, because we went by some place because we were given money, like
Yeah.
meal money that we never had in college back then. When you got meal money, it was like gold, like and we were given a lot of money. So we're like looking at all this money, like what do we do? So obviously we go out and start spending it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all bought cowboy hats just for something to do, and then again went to the finals and lost, and then the next year, like I said, we did. So it was again right place at the right time.
Yeah.
If
No
I would have
shit.
picked any of those other teams, it wouldn't have gone that way. So it was luck, and I just happened to trip and fall and be successful, and then like I said, then the NHL thing came. So crazy.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, also like, what was your like success here? Because I see like 90 points in the AC or 50 points ACHL, 101 points ACHL, 103 points IHL, 109 points IHL, 136 points IHL. Like fucking just a demon out there. Like I don't like What'd you do to
Yeah,
kind of succeed that? Like,
again,
you said look at my
my
mates,
mom
but
wouldn't even have betted on that. Like that's one of those where my mom was like, "You ain't gonna be that good." And all I did was I worked hard and I was very disciplined. And I just enjoyed the game so much that I just, it was one of those things where, again, I feel like I was pretty lucky. Like my first game, I told you in college, I scored 3 goals. Like when does that happen?
yeah, no shit, right?
So yeah, so in the end, I'm just, I go into pro, and the first time I'm down in the Atlantic Coast League with, I got sent down. Like I would get bag skated every day. In the American League, I got bag skated every day. And my coach didn't like American players. And he goes,
Yeah,
yeah, there was me and another guy, Steve McDougall, where we were Americans and we signed decent contracts. It wasn't, millions of dollars or anything, but we had decent contracts for back then.
right.
And so he goes, you American guys, you sign the big contracts and you get the bonuses and then you get sports cars. I had a Mazda RX-7 that cost like $11,000 at the time. Like, so it wasn't a Maserati or anything.
Right.
And he had another sports car and it was nothing big deal. But I'm like, I looked at him because we always got set up in this extra locker room where
Mm.
we weren't even in the real locker room. We were in the extra locker room and we had to dress in there. And we were always making jokes about how we were like, again, the mutts. So
Yeah. Yep.
we ended up again. So I barely played there. I'd get a shift in or two every now and then. And they'd always go, okay, you're going out for warm-ups. Be ready. You're playing in the game. So I'd go out there flying around, all nervous. And then I get off after the warm-up, and he go, no, you're not in. You're not in. So I go, oh
It's
man.
just a mind fuck at that
Oh
point.
yeah, that's all it was. It was
Like,
just a all
yeah,
the
no
time.
shit.
You know. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then that went on for a while. And when I got called up, it was really kind of cool. The first time I got called up, I get sent down to the Atlantic Coast League, and I'm playing all the time, and I do really well. I get called up, and they're like, uh, I'm in the hotel, and there's a knock on my door, and it's Norm Barnes. It's a guy who played in the NHL, won a Stanley Cup. I'd watched him play, and there was another guy named Gilles Lupien who was like a 6'9" defenseman, a great
Big
guy.
giant.
Like, yeah, these guys picked me up to take me to lunch, and
Hmm.
I'm like, I felt stupid. I didn't even
Yeah.
know what to say, and I was just listening to them tell their stories, and um, so again, I didn't play very much in there when I was there. So I go back down to the Atlantic Coast League and for the playoffs. Like I was up there for I don't know, and then and you know me being I'm a little cocky at times. So
Sometimes.
we're in practice at in the American League, and they finally called me up at one point, and I scored a goal in the game and played really well. We lost, but I played really well. And after the game, everybody's going, great job," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in now. I'm gonna be
Yeah, no
playing."
shit, right? Yeah.
And so the next day in practice, we go out, and I'm playing defense, and I'm like, what the
What the
fuck?
fuck? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing a drill, scrimmaging, and they go D to D, and then they do a cross ice pass to the far wing, and I step up and take it, and I go in one on my buddy, and I fake a slap shot, and he flinches and does a flamingo, and I toe drag him, and I go in and score, and then I lift my arms up and
Yeah.
kind of selly in practice, and I look over at the coach, and he's just like fire darts like
No shit.
lightning at me. I could just feel the hate from
Yeah.
across the rink. And so I got sent down. No surprise.
Off of that. Yeah,
Yeah, so
right?
I get sent down right before the playoffs start in the ACHL, and we end up winning the championship down there. So I'm like, all right, this hockey stuff's working out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so then I go back up to the American League, and I'm again, just miserable because they're playing in
Yeah.
the playoffs, and they went to the finals against New Brunswick, and they lost. And the whole time, all I did was bag skate and sit on the bench. And at one point, or not even on the bench, like in the stands. And at one point, the radio guy, I think his name was Roger Neal, really good guy, like really good guy, was by himself. So he goes, "You want to come up and be the color guy?" So I'm like, "All right." So I'm
Yeah.
sitting up there doing the color. And there was one game in the playoffs where I thought I was going to play, and he gave me the old one more time.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the lineup and I'm bitter. Like I'm just sitting up there in the radio spot there and I'm just pissed. And I'm
Yeah.
not even paying attention. Like I'm really not even paying attention. And the guy's all excited, telling me, going to play by play. And he goes, "What do you think about that one, Jeff?" And I just started rambling. I didn't see the play. I didn't know what was going on. So I just made
Yeah.
something up. And uh, and I think it fit to what happened. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, but I think it
Yeah.
fit to
Lucky
what
on that
happened
one.
because he goes, "Oh, that's great insight," And I'm like,
Like,
"Holy
fuck
cow,
yeah. All
it's
right.
not
Yeah.
great insight." I wasn't paying attention. So the next year, I come back to camp, and I'm like, I'm doing well, and I always did well in camp. The NHL camp, I did really well. And then in the second year camp, I do well, so I go get sent down the next, again down to Binghamton. And I get there, and John Cuniff was the head coach then. He was a really good guy, like a really good guy. The other guy, I'm not going to mention his name, that I played for, not so much. Um, just not a great coach. So John just said, Jeff, I'd love to keep you here, but the brass doesn't have any plans for you in the future. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right. I said, and this was the smartest thing I ever did. I said, listen, if you don't have plans for me in the future, then I don't want to be here.
Right.
I'm just, I said, I'll go back to the hotel. I'm going to stay there. You guys talk to my agent, buy me out. So all I did was sit. I sat in the hotel every day watching the World Series because back then the World Series would be one game on in the day and then one in the afternoon, like in 1 o'clock and then one at like 5. So I
Yeah.
just sat there and then I'd order food and I'd always put it on their bill. I'm just like, okay, this is the way we're going to play. Good, good.
Yeah.
So
Just to fuck
eventually,
with them.
after like a week and a half, they buy me out.
Yeah.
So I go back to Utica again, in the AC Delco, that's what we called it. And again, did really well. Go to the finals, we lose. We played against Rick Dudley's team, and they were like Louisiana.
Yeah.
Exactly like Louisiana. They were
Fucking
tough, and
sick.
yeah. I mean, back then the fights were unbelievable. We had some of the best brawls ever in that league.
Do you ever get one? Do you ever have one or what?
Yeah, we
Personally?
you get in a fight every now and then, yeah, but the brawls was the best brawl we ever had. We played it was from a team up north in like the eastern, you're right, in the East Coast. Cape Cod is what it was. And
Yeah.
so brawl starts. And we were playing Cape Cod, but it was in Utica at the time. So we're playing them and a brawl starts. And I mean it's bench clearing brawl. And everybody's everybody's kind of mucking it up, but there was like
Yeah.
fights kind of off and on everywhere. And I didn't end up fighting in that one. I had a buddy who I knew because he was in Hartford's camp, and we were just talking the whole time and watching what was going on. And we're like, "Can you believe this is going on?" Because we had one guy gotten 3 fights with the same guy, and one was on the ice. The next one was on the bench. They both get pushed over the bench, and they both disappear. And then our guy comes up, and he's just like
No shit.
right straight down like a jackhammer on this guy. So they ended up fighting 3 times. The two coaches, uh, Bill Horton and Jim Troy, are fighting in their suits at center ice.
No fucking
Yeah,
way.
it was a
Holy
total
shit.
total shitstorm. And
It's
so
on
cops
YouTube by
came.
chance.
They had German shepherds. Like it was ridiculous. And in Utica, when you get off the ice, both teams get off the ice the same end and go down the same hallway. So the brawl ends up in the hallway, and
No
it just
fucking way.
total poop show.
That's
Total poop
insane.
show.
Razzie,
Yeah.
Razzie, what did you say? What were you gonna
So
ask?
I was asking if that was on YouTube, if I can find that for the
No, I wish you could have. Back then, I don't even know there was YouTube probably, so it was so old.
yeah,
But no, that was the
cameras.
best
Yeah.
brawl I'd ever seen. Like I'd ever been part of or seen. And it was just like absolutely crazy. Like, and the two coaches fighting at center ice, like how crazy is that
Never
in
seen
suits?
it. Never heard of
That's
it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fucking crazy.
yeah.
Do
The
you have any
coaches
like?
used to scream at you too. Like the
Yeah,
visiting coach would just scream at you. Like I ran the crap out of this one guy right by their bench, and he's like right over like his, he's just pointing right here at me, and I'm just feeding it to him. Like then that's the way it used to be. It used to just be
yeah,
ugly all the time.
yeah,
Like but
100%.
it taught you learn how to fight. And I played in the junior league where I had to learn how to fight there too. So I didn't mind doing it once in a while, but I wasn't gonna, I didn't have to fight
Right.
because I was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
So
you're
I
big
didn't really
girl.
have to fight every now and then. But when I had my coach and Dennis DeRozier in Saginaw told me, he goes, "Don't fight because I don't want you to hurt your hands."
Yeah, no
So I
shit, 'cause
fight
you're
once
just
in a while.
nasty.
Still, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, no, no worries. So yeah, it
So,
was crazy.
so do you have any like crazy stories from like over in Germany overseas per chance? Like one of the top tier, like you gotta tell it type
Um,
stories, or doesn't
well,
have to
find
be
again,
like
we
stories
went
in
top
there.
particular.
tier,
My
but
first 2 years over there, we won championships, and I get there, and I don't have it. Like when I first got there, like Kathy and I, my wife was with me, and we're in Germany. We don't know what's going on, So we get there, and just to adapt at the beginning, because we didn't know how democratic it was.
Right.
Like, are we targets here as Americans or anything like that? So at the beginning, it was a little bit different, but the food was great. The travel was great because every Monday we get off, so we would just go travel. We'd go into Frankfurt one time, and then we'd go down south one time to Garmisch, which is right on the Austrian-German border, which is absolutely beautiful. We'd go to Munich. We decided that we're going to travel the world. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So we get there, and the first place I went to sucked. It really did. It was just a like bad team and everything like that. And so I was playing literally like
Yeah.
all the time. And we had this one game where like I was there for I think 14 games, and I was leading the league in scoring, and I was playing defense. And I'm just like,
That's insane.
I'm playing all the time. And after the one of the games, we were losing them quite a bit, but I was doing
Yeah.
well. But I'm just like, this is a waste of time. And I'd gotten a call to come back. My IHL coach said, "Hey, Chicago's going to give you a two-way if you want to come back here. The Blackhawks were going to give me a two-way. If you want to come back here, you'll get this much money." And I'd be back in Flint at the time. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that. Or it was a Saginaw, I think, at the time. So I decided to go home. So Kathy and I packed our bags, and we snuck out in the middle of the night. One of the German guys took us to the airport in Frankfurt. So first year, total poop show. The next
Yeah.
year, for whatever reason, I went back, and I went to this place called Bayreuth, which was in southern Germany. And we had like this was, and I hate to say it this way, but it was kind of like a little bit of a Nazi territory. I hate to say it that way, but it was. And we had a coach, a guy named Hans Zock, who's a great coach, but he could really be a dink. He was that
Yeah.
guy. And
Right.
he would, no matter how good we were playing or how good I was doing, like he didn't like anybody being like known as the guy. Everybody was the same. He was going to develop the young guys, the junior guys were going to play. And an article came out. One game I had like 10 points, and it was a terrible team. And I ended up with like 10 points, 6 goals and four assists or whatever. And in the paper
Demon.
it said, and then in the paper it says superstar. And I'm like, Germany, like really, let's get
Yeah.
our shit together here. So I come in the locker room the next day, and he sits everybody's down, and he's like, he's kind of looking at me, side staring, and then walking away, and side staring and walking away. And then he just starts a
Yeah.
rant, absolute rant. And it's not directed at me at the beginning, but it's kind of like he was mad that the paper had put that in because there are no superstars on our team. We're all, one, and and I'm like, I get it. I understand. It's not a big deal. And I was always a pretty good teammate. I liked if he put me, sometimes he'd put me on the fourth line with the junior kids. He goes, "Are you okay with that?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll carry him. I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
help him, so I do that and things like that. But he was really a dink, like I mean, really bad. And he would go out of his way and just we had a one guy comes in. He always told us if you're sick, you let me know. And this
Yeah.
one guy comes in, and this one kid, his name was Baloo. He was a big kid, defenseman, and he came in and he had the flu, right? And he's
Yeah.
like, comes up to me, he goes, "What do you think I should do? Should I tell Hans?" I go, "I wouldn't." I said, "I just bite the bullet, go home, soup, tea, take
Yeah.
care of yourself, come back tomorrow." And so he goes over to the other foreigner was Pierre Rioux, was a buddy of mine, and Pierre says, "Yeah, go tell him. Go tell him that you're sick." He wants you to tell him. So the guy goes in, and I'm like, oh no, this is
Shit.
not good. So he goes into the coach's office, which is, when you walk out of the locker room, there's a little area, and there's a door on the left, a little locker room, tiny one. And that's where
Yeah.
the coach put his stuff on. So walks out, closes the door, goes in, sits down, and I didn't see him. And he came back in. It was probably like 10 seconds, and the door swings open, and it's Hans walking in, and he's got this strut, and you can tell he's going to blow up.
Yeah.
So he waits for the kid to get in the room, and he just reams him. He goes, 99.3, 99.3. He goes, "That's not the flu. That's called a sweat." And he just starts reaming this kid in front of everybody. So
No
he made the
shit.
kid practice. And then after practice, he took him out and bag skated him. And it
No
was just the
fucking
worst thing
way.
I'd ever seen. Yeah. So we win a championship my first year. We win a championship my second year. And then he got moved up to the DEL. And so he tells me, he goes, like he was shaking everybody's hand. He gave us these gold trimmed watches, which were decent. It was nice and everything. And he shook my hand and he goes, Jeff, he goes, I know you didn't like me very much, but he goes, we did have a respect for each other. And I said, Hans, it wasn't that I didn't like you. I said, but you don't have to be an asshole every day. That's all I said to him. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be that guy every day. Like we're working our ass off. We won 2 championships. What do you want for us, from us?
Right.
So we
Shit.
did that, and that was interesting. And then we had one year when I was playing in Bayreuther after he left, we went bankrupt, and it was like an old school kind of a Frankenstein type movie
Yeah.
situation. So the team's going bankrupt, and they have this big meeting and at the time I was coaching. And so we had this big meeting about what was going to happen to the team. And this guy that had played with us was a Canadian guy. He had kind of came up to me. He says, Jeff, we're going to have this meeting. And he had made me go to dinner with him one day. And he goes, the one thing I want you to know is I'm going to give you an ultimatum. You're either going to have to take a pay cut and start playing, or I'm going to go to the owner and I'm going to tell him to put the team in concourse, which was bankruptcy. And I
Yeah.
said, Don, I said, you go ahead and go to the owner and take thing in the bankruptcy. I said, I got the best lawyer in Germany. I said, I'll get all my money. It doesn't matter. I'll get it no matter what. And
Yeah.
so next thing you know, we're having this big meeting in like a theater place, and all the owners and big people are up at sitting up at a table, and we're sitting there eating. Me and this guy named Matt Glennon, who had played for me, and we're sitting there eating, and we're having a beer or so, and this meeting's going back and forth, and it was packed. This place was packed, and everybody's asking questions,
Yeah.
left and right questions, and it was like, yeah, yeah, the Germans are pretty. It was like a soccer crowd, like they're all, yeah, yeah, like, yeah, it's a good point, yeah, yeah. And so it was getting a little crazy and everything. And so this one guy towards the end of it goes, we've talked about everything, but what about, and I'd been there, for the 2 championships, and I was the best player they ever had. And
Yeah.
so they're like, we've talked about everything, but what about Jeff? Like, what are we doing with him? And everybody's like, yeah, one of those types of things. So Don starts the owner, this guy named here Hellbach. He goes, well, that's Don had talked to Jeff, and so Don goes, yeah, I talked to Jeff, and I gave him an offer, and so now I'm beer, I got a couple beers in me, and I
Yeah.
was kind of pissed when he kind of gave me that, the ultimatum thing. So I let him talk for a little while, and then I stopped him at one point, and I stood up, and I go, yeah, he didn't make me an offer. I said he gave me an ultimatum that I either had to play and take a pay cut, or he was going to go to Herr Hellbach and he was going to shut down the team. And you should have seen it just got like wicked silent. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, wicked silent. And everybody turns up, and the owner, Herr Hellbach, was looking at Don, and you could tell he was pissed, like big time pissed. And so uh, he ends up ripping into Don, and the crowd's going wild now. Like it's chaos. Like it's chaos.
The fucking
And so this one
disaster.
goes, so Herr Hellbach grabs his jacket and storms out. And this little guy came up to me, and he goes, "Hey," it was one of Herr Hellbach's minions, and he goes, "Jeff, you need to go out there and talk to him. He's at his car. You need to go out and talk to him and reason with him. Otherwise, he's going to shut it down." I said, "I'm not going out there. I told him before, if we're not going to do it right, might as well shut it down." And I said, I
Right.
can't believe that he let Don do this stuff. So that was an old school, like that was when it was kind of like, the people coming up the hill with the torch, someone's going to fry one way or
Yeah.
another,
No shit. Right.
Yeah. It was just funny. And the guy that I was with was like, that was unbelievable, and I go, yeah, welcome to Germany, so
Yeah. No
it was
shit. Right.
interesting. The hockey was good, it really was. We played a lot of
Yeah.
good teams and a lot of good guys, and there was a lot of good Euros there and stuff like that. The refereeing was bad as it is everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Right.
we were there I ended up staying there for 10 years, and our son was born in Germany, and
Oh,
once he
shit.
hit 3 years old, we said, we're going to go back home, and that's when I
Yeah.
came back and got the job coaching here at home, and yeah, that's how it all went down.
Fuck yeah. So also, I know we struggled this year with the Caps pretty heavily. So that being said, like, how did you push through such a shitty year? What was your kind of motivation to not be like, all right, I'm fucking out of this place. Like, it's a dumpster fire at this point. So, like, it's like, what made you not want to do that? It just,
It was crazy. Like I took the job and I had no idea what was going on.
yeah,
I didn't have a clue to what was going on. I didn't really know the league. I didn't know exactly what my job was other than the coaching part of it. And as I learned, I ended up realizing that I was the equipment guy and the medical guy
yep,
and everything else
everything.
guy,
Yep,
which was okay. So I just had to adapt because I've always been a hard worker. So, and I liked the challenge and I knew it was going
yeah,
to be a challenge. I didn't realize though, our first day of training camp, we'd have four guys. We had one goalie, two
quote unquote
D,
training camp.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
one forward. And I'm like, what do we do now?
yeah,
So that's why, I would skate with you guys just so I could even up the teams. And
right,
most of the
yeah,
time, we had 8 guys to 10 guys on the ice for practice every day. So we couldn't
yeah,
couldn't really learn a lot other than, I told you guys learn how to play one-on-one, switches, and I always said take advantage of the ice time you will get because you will never get this much ice time ever
yeah.
again
No
in your
kidding.
life,
Yeah,
And I said that all
yeah,
the time. I said we can either look at this and put our heads down and complain and whine, or we can find a way to win and become a good teammates. And if everybody
yeah,
develops, how many times did I tell you guys it's not about don't worry about the losing. Let's develop. Let's get better. Some of you guys can go to college. Hopefully, we can get you up into higher junior teams. And so that was kind of the way I went. And then all of a sudden, we ended up having to get high school kids, and there was a high school tournament at the ice forum, so I went and scouted it out.
mm-hmm.
And I got to know all the
Yeah,
coaches, and I had a list of some of the guys I thought were pretty good. So as you know, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we always had different guys in the lineup. You
yep. It's like
know,
a drop-in game every time.
yeah, it
It was
was. It was
literally a
like,
drop-in game.
yeah, it was crazy. And so every weekend I had to call guys to see who's in, who's out. We had a couple guys on the team that you weren't sure if they were playing or not, so I had to chase those guys a lot. And that was the toughest part was it got old chasing our own guys that I thought were going to be here more. And then I ended up, like I said, every weekend it was like, how many guys do we, and you guys would go, okay, how many guys do we got tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. We got to wait until warm up, and then I'll be able
Yeah,
to tell you,
literally.
So
It's a
that was
waiting
tough
game.
too. Yeah, but again, it was tough the first half because guys didn't really buy in. It
Yeah,
was kind of we had some guys that were difficult to coach. Um, but the thing, I always talk to you guys. I understood it was difficult for you guys. I knew it sucked.
yeah,
Our practices again were more scrimmaging and us. It wasn't like we didn't work hard or skate. We all skated hard. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I cracked my head open a couple times, which
Which I wasn't
hardest head
there
in the
for.
league.
It's crazy. Once I saw that text, I was like, no fucking way that happened during practice today. It's insane that happened.
Yeah, it was crazy. The one time there when I got up and and it was funny because I didn't tell Kathy what happened, you know,
Yeah, no, I
and I
wouldn't.
got up and I thought I was sweating and it was blood and I didn't know it until I wiped my face. And I know I've always had a hard head, so I wasn't worried.
Yeah,
I mean, I
you're
know when
like,
I'm hurt and I wasn't hurt,
yeah,
so I'm like, so anyway, I go home and I didn't say anything to Kathy and all of a sudden I think I showered or something and I come walking out and she's just kind of staring at me, like just looking at me and I'm like, what? And she goes, well, what happened? And I go, what do you mean what happened? And she goes, what happened? I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, you're getting texts right now about, hey coach, how's your head doing? And I'm like,
you're like shit.
yeah,
Should have turned my phone off.
yeah, I felt like Homer Simpson. Don't. So I tell her I hit my head and everything. And yeah, so anyway, it was what it was. But yeah, I've always been pretty good you know, I do have a hard head, number one. And I've always been able to recover from injuries pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I did hit my head pretty hard on that one. But still, it was fun. We had a good time.
Can't believe I wasn't there for that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know who called me. I think Diller calls me and he's like, Coach broke his head. I'm like,
broke my
what?
head.
I'm like, what?
I mean, I should have put a cast on it.
Yeah, you should have. Should put a wrap around it the next day, maybe.
Wrap cast with this eye holes.
Yeah, no shit,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's always interesting. But me, I mean, we didn't have guys, and I like skating to stay in shape, and so I
Yeah,
figured, I would help out here and there. But I thought, all in all, it's I've always said hockey is a life lesson. So the bottom line, there were a lot of lessons to be learned, good,
Yeah.
bad. We were doing some traveling to some nice places. The travel wasn't that bad. I just remember the one where we went to Texas and I had McQueeg and Max sitting up front and they were mesmerized by the gas stations in Texas, like guys that have never really ever left home.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting getting to know everybody, because me, I'd sit down with you guys and when we before everybody was there and we'd all kind of bullshit a little bit and I got to know everybody and you kind of got to get to know guys before you can really, really crack them open and push them to what they want to be and stuff. And
Exactly.
we'd always watch the video together, which was good. But then the second half of the season, we started getting more and more guys. Some guys bailed, and other guys came in, and then all of a sudden we had a chance to be better. And we started getting a little bit better. But then towards the end, we were really solid. I thought, like we put up some games where we were good defensively and we were scoring a lot. And you could see the confidence was better. So in the end, it was fun and it was a good life lesson. Like again, you can look at the worst part of it or you can pick the best out of it and find a way to, make it positive. So it was positive, and it was kind of at the end there, the way it ended was crazy, but
Yeah.
that's three hell. What are you gonna do?
Mm.
There's nothing
Yeah,
you can do.
exactly. Always a
But
shit show.
yeah, at that time, I mean, again, it was different. It was good. We had Hatch ended up getting us, going to school, and
Yep. Good for
Tristan's
him.
getting moved up to Aberdeen. Hopefully, he does well. But you want to do it. Everything you're doing in life is to open up another door for something else. So I kind of felt like in the end, guys did start developing, start buying in a little bit more. But at the beginning, boy, it was a grind, man. Like
Yeah.
it was a circus. We were a three-ring circus in that locker room. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was
There were some
bad.
guys that came in to play for us for the week, and they're like, "I ain't ever coming back here."
Yeah, no shit. They're like packing up before the game even ends.
Yeah, we didn't have a great locker room. That's the one thing
No.
with tough, and that one that kind of pissed me off. But again, it's a life lesson, and hopefully the guys learn from it and carry it on, no matter in work, no matter if it's their hockey, no matter what. It was still fun. We had fun. We did have a lot of fun and
Yeah,
had a lot of
exactly.
laughs. So yeah,
Yeah. That's all that matters sometimes. You know.
I'm pretty sure you guys thought I was kind of different, from other coaches you had.
Definitely way more laid back, that's for sure.
Yeah,
That
well, I
was that was
mean,
one that was one for sure. Like definitely a game changer.
yeah, like I said, we were going to have fun no matter what. And that's what I'm telling everybody
Yeah.
I'm recruiting right now. And we've had a lot of luck with recruiting guys. Like I got a really good group of young guys that are, I think are, for the most part, I've got commitments, verbal commitments, and I'm going to be getting them signed, but they all had some stuff going on and they needed to straighten that out before we got everything done. But I've talked to the families and stuff, but I wanted 20, 25 guys this year. I want competition in the locker room, on the ice. I want guys to know they're fighting for minutes in their job. And I want a good young team that works their butt off, that plays for each other. I'm not going to, like, I had to take a lot of crap this year from guys that I would never in a million years take crap from. But when you got,
Hmm.
10 guys, you can't really bench guys or suspend them.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of bite the bullet, which I think I did pretty well.
Yep.
But in the end, it was good. Like it was a learning lesson for me on how to coach a team with 8 guys on it. And
Yeah, no shit.
that's you look at the upside, and that's kind of the way I always do it. So yeah, but it was fun. I mean, I met a lot of nice
Yeah, no.
kids. We did
Yeah,
have fun.
it was a blast other than the game aspect of it, but fuck it,
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't matter in the end,
yeah.
you
There's
know.
always something going on. Like in our situation, there was always something,
Yeah.
whether it was Tristan or Max or whoever, Jalen. There's always something
Somebody.
going on.
There's always some shit show happening. Never
It was
ending.
kind of like if you were gambling, you kind of have to gamble which guy was it going to be today, like
It really was a gamble every single day with those guys,
yeah,
to
yeah.
say the least.
So
But
yeah, but it was again, it's a life. You're gonna look back on this, in your life sometime and just laugh, because
yeah.
it was what it was. But yeah, it's an interesting league. But every league I've been in has been interesting. Like the AC Delco when I played in that one and we had the brawl with Cape Cod, I was like, but then one year we were in the finals and we won the championship and we were against Salem and we were playing in Utica for the championship for the
Yeah.
game. I think it was game 6 in our building. Um, and we ended up winning it 4-2. And in the last 16 seconds, there's a stop in the play, and our own fans were fighting each other behind the net. And there's a place where the Zamboni goes out. And you know how the stairs go up around, and it's kind of a cage around the stairs right there where the Zamboni goes out. And there's this guy with a crutch, and he's swinging it at this guy. He's like swinging it at this guy. And then the next time, standing next to this guy named Greg White, who played college that when I did, and we were both first year rookies. And I'm like, can you believe this? That, that we're here in this situation, and this is after early in the year. We had that other fight and everything. And he goes, no, this is absolutely crazy, and it wasn't the teams fighting, it was the fans. And
Fans fighting
so
is crazy.
all of a sudden, these people, these three guys, grab the one guy with the crutch, and they slowly tip him over the over the fence, like the little thing in front of the chairs, and they just threw him over into the pit.
No way.
Yeah, just threw him right over, and the guys landed there, and we're like, "What is going on here?"
Just mind
So
blowing.
yeah, and so and then after the game, we obviously we win championship and big party and everything like that. So it was absolutely crazy, but I was like, I have never seen that before. Guy just gets
Yeah, no
tossed
shit.
into the pit.
That's insane.
Yeah, it
What the
was, but it was
fuck?
like a
Yeah.
hockey. Crazy,
Yeah,
huh?
right. No kidding, right? Razzie.
Yeah.
Razzie, do you got any questions for him, or you got anything to kind of hit on real quick?
No, not really. It's probably gonna wrap her up. Hope everybody enjoys hearing my voice for the first time in about 30 minutes. But Jeff, you got any shout outs you want to give people who want to say hi to? Anything like that?
No, I do want to appreciate that that you guys had me on, and
Absolutely.
Caleb always would be all over me for telling stories and stuff like that, and so that's why I knew I was coming on. But I appreciate you having me on, and I hope all the people that are listening enjoyed it, and I hope you guys get a lot of guys that are followers and can build this up the way you guys need it to be.
Okay, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for coming on. Thanks
Absolutely.
for your time, and keep in touch, obviously, because we do every day. So,
Okay, that sounds good. You
I
guys take
appreciate it.
care.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
All right, well, that's gonna wrap up the show for today. Thanks for listening, everybody that did. Share the show, send it to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, to your dead grandma, whoever you want. Um,
Wow.
any lessons will
Anybody,
be appreciated.
anybody, doesn't
Just
matter.
anybody.
Shout out Atlanta Capitals. If you know anybody that wants to play juniors next year, pop down, play for Atlanta. Jeff's a great coach, great guy, good to be around.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Yeah, it's gonna wrap her up. Uh, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, do everything that's good. If you're on Spotify, share, give us a rating as long as it's 5 stars. Everything that's good, do it.
Five
Do
star or
that.
nothing.
Kind of believe the
5 star or
gospel.
nothing.
Everything that's good, do it. All right. We out you. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Peace.